You stand in a room heavy with velvet and incense, where candle flames bend like conspirators against the dark. Beyond the latticed window, the night breathes damp salt from the sea, carrying whispers of a city that worships its queen as untouched, immaculate, untouchable. Yet inside this chamber, silk gloves tremble, letters are burned, and footsteps echo in secret corridors, known only to those who dare. You can smell wax melting onto stone, hear the low creak of hidden doors, and feel the cold iron of rules that promise purity, but breed hunger. The court will never speak of what happens here, but history still remembers the shadows moving behind a queen's silhouette. Who touched the untouchable, and at what cost? The air smells of lavender water and candle smoke as you're led down a corridor lined with portraits of ancestors who stare with painted eyes, their faces serene, but their hands clenched in silent vows. You are still a child, yet every step feels rehearsed, choreographed by centuries of expectation. Your hair is brushed until it gleams like a banner. Your skin is inspected for blemishes that might mar the myth of perfection. Tutors recite Latin prayers about chastity, while seamstresses fit you into bodices stiff as armor. The fabrics whisper as they tighten, silk, lace, and whalebone, layers meant to guard virtue as much as shape the body beneath. Outside, church bells toll like a warning. You are not a girl anymore, but an emblem. The court teaches you to speak without revealing feeling, to smile without inviting, to walk without seeming to sway. You are told that purity is power, that your untouched body will bind allies and intimidate rivals. Yet at night, lying awake beneath a canopy embroidered with golden lilies, you smell the wax of the candles burning low and hear the faint scratch of quills writing rumors you cannot control. Your heartbeat drums against the stays of your gown as you realize that even your breath, your glance, your silence is being curated for a destiny you never chose. In the darkness, you think you feel the palace itself breathing, ancient and watchful, a labyrinth that will become your stage and your cage. Dawn in the palace comes not with birdsong, but with the clatter of servants drawing curtains and the hiss of water poured into silver basins. The scent of rose oil fills the room, masking the dampness of old stone walls, as ladies in waiting lift you from your bed and into the costume of sovereignty. Layers of linen, silk, and velvet settle on your skin like sentences passed down by invisible judges. You are coached to receive foreign envoys with eyes lowered just enough to suggest humility, but never weakness. To tilt your head so that your crown, when you are allowed to wear it, catches the candlelight and projects the myth of an untouchable saint. Yet as they lace the final ribbon at your back, you feel the tug not only on fabric but on self, each knot closing another exit. Behind closed doors, whispers of alliances, dowries and heirs float like incense, thick and inescapable. They speak of your body as a promise to kingdoms, not as a living heart. Even the chapel's incense feels heavier now, mingling with the beeswax and smoke until you can hardly breathe without tasting obligation. But sometimes, through a half-open door or a sudden gust of wind from the gardens, you glimpse another world. Courtiers laughing too loudly, a page boy's unruly grin, a tapestry's hidden figure looking back at you with unseemly boldness. These glimpses are brief, gone like dust motes in sunbeams, yet they leave a pulse of heat under your skin. The walls echo with prayers for your virtue, but your body already senses the contradiction between purity and power, between being adored and being owned. The palace corridors, once endless, now feel like a maze designed to teach you how to disappear into an icon. Night falls like a velvet curtain drawn by unseen hands, muting the palace's gilded edges into shadow. The corridors you walked proudly in daylight now stretch out like veins in a living body, pulsing with whispers you're not supposed to hear. Beyond the chapel door, a single candle trembles, its flame bending as if straining to listen. You sit beneath your canopy of lilies, the bodice loosened but still stiff against your ribs, breathing in the mingled scents of beeswax, damp stone, and the faint perfume of a forgotten bouquet. On the table before you lies an unfinished letter you will never be allowed to send, its words smudged where your fingers lingered too long. You were taught that silence protects you, but silence can also echo. It fills the chamber with imagined voices, with the soft laughter of girls who were free before the crown swallowed them. Through the lattice of your window you see the gardens dim in moonlight, paths curling like secrets toward a hidden fountain. Somewhere, a footstep stops too close to your door, and the latch quivers before stilling again. In that moment, you feel both watched and alone, a living relic sealed inside a reliquary of velvet and iron. Your mind drifts to the touch you have never known, but already mourn, to a freedom spoken only in parables and songs. The palace taught you that purity is armor. Tonight you begin to understand it is also glass, transparent and brittle, reflecting a girl's face you can barely recognize. Outside, the wind rises and carries the scent of the sea up to your window, a reminder of horizons hidden beyond these walls. For the first time, you wonder not just who you are supposed to be, but who might dare to reach for you despite everything. Morning court begins like a theatre performance, and you, still wrapped in silk and ritual, are its unwilling actress. Trumpets echo from the marble stair, the smell of polished brass mixing with rosewater as courtiers file in, their shoes clicking like a chorus of insects. Every glance is a measure, every bow a calculation. Behind each lowered eye you sense not devotion but surveillance. The air shimmers with a sweetness that is not quite sweet. Ink from fresh decrees, crushed herbs from perfumed gloves, and the faint metallic tang of secret keys. Men and women cluster at the edges of the hall, speaking in compliments that hide traps, in jokes that disguise messages. Pages slip folded scraps between sleeves, and you notice how often hands brush where they shouldn't, how often eyes dart when they think no one sees. You are meant to stand like marble, lips curved in a serene smile, yet you can feel the heat of this web tightening around you. Somewhere, a young court musician plays a slow tune on a viol. Its sound threads through the hall like smoke, mournful and sly. You hear it and wonder if the melody carries a message meant for you or for someone watching you. In a corner, a man you do not yet know too well lingers a heartbeat longer than protocol allows, his gaze steady, neither bowing nor looking away. It is not defiance, but an unspoken question. Your pulse stirs against the stays of your gown, and suddenly the hall feels smaller, the air heavier. You realize that in this palace of eyes and ears, temptation does not arrive as a storm, but as a whisper, a glance, a name murmured under breath. You are surrounded by people whose loyalty is measured in secrets. Even affection can be a weapon here. The corridors between chambers are quieter than the hall, yet they hum with invisible currents. The scent of beeswax and iron mingles where torchlight flickers against tapestries. Their woven saints and sinners staring out with mute warnings. You walk between your ladies, gloved hands folded, and practice the serene composure drilled into you since girlhood. But you are also learning to read what lies beneath. A servant's bowed head may hide a listening ear. A gift of fruit may conceal a message beneath its peel. Even the music drifting from the gallery can carry codes. In these hallways you have begun to notice small shifts. A certain page always appears when a certain courtier passes, a folded kerchief exchanged at the same hour each day, a faint scent of foreign tobacco lingering where no ambassador has been received. This is how power moves here. Quietly, through glances and objects, never in the open. Your instructors told you purity is your strength. Now you understand invisibility is your survival. Yet amid the surveillance, tiny sparks of humanity pierce through. A maid who dares to warn you with her eyes about a trap in your schedule. A guard who coughs loudly to mask another's whispered words. These gestures strike you like secret notes of a forbidden melody. One evening, as you pause near a window, you catch the echo of laughter from a secluded gallery. Not cruel courtly laughter, but low, warm, and human. It drifts to you with the smell of candle smoke and something else you can't name. And for a heartbeat, you feel the weight of your bodice loosen. The palace is still a labyrinth, but you are beginning to sense the hidden paths where the masks slip and hearts beat unguarded. Night settles over the palace like ink poured slowly across parchment, blurring the day's bright performances into a softer, more dangerous script. The great hall stands empty now, but the walls still hold whispers. Alliances forged over goblets, betrayals murmured behind fans, glances exchanged like secret oaths. You retreat to a smaller chamber where the fire burns low and the smell of damp velvet mixes with ashes. Your ladies have withdrawn. Only a single candle glows on the table, its flame bending whenever the wind pushes through the hidden cracks in the old stone. This is the hour when secrets travel. You sense movement in the shadows. A page delivering a folded note not to you, but to someone just outside your door. A guard shifting his stance as though to signal. In this hushed atmosphere, you realize how thoroughly your life has become a performance inside a surveillance machine. Every expression weighed, every gesture catalogued. Yet in that same quiet you catch another thread. A sound not of duty but of desire. A muffled chord from a viol. A breath that is not quite a sigh. It seems the palace itself exhales, releasing for a heartbeat its iron grip. Through the crack of the door, you glimpse the figure from the hall again. His back turned as if to leave, but his hand pausing on the latch, knuckles white. He does not enter. Neither of you speaks. Still, something unnamed crosses the space, as tangible as the candle's heat. You feel it in your pulse, in the loosened knot of your throat. For the first time you understand that temptation here is not only dangerous, but inevitable. A quiet gravity, drawing hidden lives together, beneath the gaze of a court built on purity and control. Outside, the watch bells toll the late hour, but their sound feels less like a warning now, and more like a challenge. The palace sleeps but never truly rests. Its stones hold warmth from centuries of footsteps, Its passages still whisper with echoes of prayers and betrayals. Tonight, though, the air feels different. Lighter, charged, like the moment before a storm. You slip through a narrow door hidden behind a tapestry of saints. The fabric smells of old incense and dust as you press it aside, and the corridor beyond is lit only by a single lamp swinging on its chain, casting slow-moving shadows over carved lions and lilies. Every sound seems magnified. The soft crush of your slipper on the worn flagstones, the flutter of a moth caught in the lamplight, your own heartbeat drumming against your stays. You are supposed to be asleep in your chamber, encased in ritual, but here in the darkness, the rules feel thinner, the walls less absolute. Down this hidden path you sense another presence, a warmth just out of sight, a whisper of movement at the edge of hearing. The smell of beeswax mingles with something more human, a trace of sweat and leather, and you know you are not alone. You remember the gaze from the hall, the pause at your door, and feel the invisible cord drawing tighter between you. In this silence, you understand how secrecy can be a refuge as well as a weapon. If the court were to know, you would be ruined. If you never reach out, you will remain a statue behind glass. The palace breathes around you, and for the first time, its labyrinth leads not to a cage, but to a threshold. A hand, not yours, rests briefly on the stone arch ahead, a signal or a plea. You do not speak. Words would be too loud here. Instead, you move forward, into the darkness that feels like a beginning. The passage narrows until you must turn sideways to slip between the stones, your palm grazing cold. Damp walls etched with scratches left by hands long gone. The air smells of wax, moss, and something faintly metallic, like a key held too long in a clenched fist. Ahead, a door stands ajar, spilling a sliver of amber light onto the floor like a secret unrolling. You push it open and find a chamber no larger than a chapel's vestry. Rough wooden table, an extinguished lamp, a single stool tucked beneath it. Yet the space vibrates with the hush of waiting. He is there, not a courtier in brocade, but a man in plain livery, the kind meant to be invisible. The lamplight paints his face in half shadows, erasing rank, leaving only eyes that do not lower. You smell leather, rain on his cloak, the faint spice of ink on his fingers. No one has ever looked at you this way. Not as an emblem, but as a person. The moment stretches taut as a drawn bow. Outside, the palace clock strikes once, the sound trembling through the stone like a pulse. You remember every warning, every sermon, every story of queens undone by whispers. Yet the distance between you and him is only a few breaths, and those breaths feel heavier than all your titles. He does not reach for you. He only waits, a question unspoken. The candle flickers, casting your shadow and his together on the wall so that they seem already joined. In this hidden room, you feel for an instant as though the myths around you could dissolve like wax under flame, leaving a life not yet written. The chamber seems to shrink as the candle burns lower, its flame trembling like a heartbeat. Every tick of the clock above feels slower, stretched, until time itself seems suspended in molten wax. You stand at the edge of the table, aware of how your fingers tremble against the grain of the wood, rough and unvarnished, so unlike the polished thrones and gilt balustrades of your public world. He remains still, a shadow against the stone, but the silence between you becomes a presence, a fragile bridge. You smell damp wool and warm skin, a scent both ordinary and forbidden, and it draws you nearer without a single step. All your training, smiles measured, glances contained, hands folded, feels suddenly useless here. You realize how small the palace myths are compared to a single unguarded breath. Yet even as desire stirs, fear coils beneath it, fear of discovery, of betrayal, of the stories history will tell. The candle throws your joined silhouettes across the wall like a prophecy you dare not speak. His hand moves, not toward you but to rest lightly on the table, palm up, an invitation without demand. You lower your gaze, not in submission, but in the strange freedom of choice. In that instant, you see clearly how secrecy and longing have shaped every step you've taken, how the labyrinth of corridors led you here, to a crossroads between emblem and human being. Beyond the door lies a court hungry for scandal. Inside this small room lies the possibility of something unrecorded, unsanctioned, alive. The palace clock strikes again, sharper this time, breaking the spell but not the knowledge. Whether you cross that fragile bridge tonight or not, a threshold has already been crossed inside you, the one where the Virgin Queen begins to imagine her own story. Morning returns like judgment, flooding the palace with pale light that makes every corner seem harsher, every secret more fragile. Servants sweep through the corridors with brooms and whispers, erasing traces of the night as if nothing ever happened. You sit beneath a window where the glass is mottled with frost, feeling the cold press through your gown into your bones. Outside, the garden paths glisten with dew like scattered beads of glass. Inside, your ladies chatter about petitions and festivals, their voices bright and practiced. but you hear only the echo of a clock striking in an empty chamber, and you smell only wax that has burned down to nothing. In the mirror, the face staring back at you wears its serenity like a mask lacquered on. The court will see no change, yet inside you a fault line has opened. You understand now the cost of being an icon. To love in secret is to live in fragments, to wear a body that belongs to history, but carry a heart that no chronicle will record. In the days that follow, glances grow sharper, silences longer, letters are burned, footsteps quicken in corridors, and the labyrinth feels tighter around you. Yet beneath the suffocating rituals you sense a flicker of defiance, a seed of memory that refuses to be scrubbed away. Perhaps your story will never be told in full. Perhaps it will survive only as rumor, as a single footnote in a chronicler's book. Still, the knowledge of having crossed that unseen threshold has changed you more than any crown could. The myths of purity that once defined you now seem brittle, ready to crack under a single honest breath. And as the bells toll for morning prayer, you wonder if the echo of your secret might one day outlive the lie. Days bleed into weeks, and the court resumes its rhythm of processions, councils, and endless ceremonies. But you move through them as if behind a pane of glass. Every ritual feels like a rehearsal for a play whose ending you now know but cannot change. The scent of incense in the chapel has turned acrid. The velvet cushions of the throne feel colder, heavier. You smile, bow, and sign decrees. Yet under your glove, your fingers remember the rough grain of the wooden table in that hidden chamber. Even the tapestries seem altered. Saints' eyes now follow you with sympathy instead of accusation, and the stitched lilies on your canopy droop like fading confessions. Rumors coil through the palace like smoke, too vague to accuse, too sharp to ignore. A misplaced look between you and a servant, a page lingering too long at your door, a melody played once too often in the gallery. Each becomes a thread for gossips to weave their own story. You have learned to breathe through it, to let the words pass as if they belong to someone else. Yet when you catch your reflection in a window at dusk, the light slanting across your face like bars, you see both the queen and the hidden woman inside her. That knowledge is both a burden and a liberation. The myths that built your throne now feel like shadows cast by a flame you have already stepped beyond. Somewhere in the labyrinth of corridors, life continues. Messages passed, glances exchanged, secret kindnesses offered. You know that what you risked may never be written, but it has carved a private space in you, a chamber of memory the court can neither police nor erase. Winter arrives with a hush, muffling the palace in frost and pale light. Snow gathers along the window ledges like unspoken words, softening the hard outlines of towers and ramparts. Inside, fires crackle but give little warmth. The corridors smell of ash and damp velvet, the taste of iron lingering in the air. You stand at the top of the grand stair during a festival, wearing the robes of sanctity, pearls cold against your skin. Courtiers bow, musicians play a hymn to your chastity, and yet you feel a ghost of warmth at your palm where a different hand once rested. The crowd sees only the symbol, never the fracture beneath. Still, that fracture has become a passage. Through it, you glimpse the truth of others like you, maids, courtiers, even rivals, each carrying secret loves under masks of duty. The myth of the Virgin Queen endures. But in your heart it has already begun to dissolve like frost in sunlight. You have discovered a freedom that cannot be decreed or recorded, a defiance written in the quiet of your own pulse. Perhaps history will erase your name from the story of hidden lovers. Perhaps it will turn you into a parable of purity. But somewhere beyond these walls, the wind carries the scent of sea and pine, a horizon that still exists whether you can reach it or not. You stand still, a queen before her people, but inside you a different woman walks down a hidden path, unbound, leaving footprints no one can trace. And so the legend remains, a queen enshrined as untouchable, her image polished until it gleams with impossible virtue. Yet behind the veil of ritual and rumor, a human heart once beat, took risks, reached for warmth in the coldest chambers of power. Perhaps the true legacy of these virgin queens is not their public myth, but their private defiance, the secret proof that even in cages of silk and gold, longing carves its own passage. How many other stories of hidden hearts have been buried beneath titles and crowns? If this glimpse moved you, share it, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, which secret royal story would you want uncovered next?